Quite extraordinary, isn't it? Let's go to my colleague Alpha Ramashwana. He's on the floor now with a couple of guests whose parties are not doing that well.
Was here at the National Results Operations Center. I mean, we're starting to see political parties and their leaders making their way here as compared to yesterday, where most of them were not even present. As you can see, the ANC continues to lead the national ballot with over 3 million votes, followed by the Democratic Alliance, which has now surpassed over 2 million votes. And of course, one of the key takeaways of this election so far is the growth of the MK party, which is actually just 5 months old. At the moment, over 60% of the voting districts have been captured, and we are seeing the United Democratic Movement with a little bit over 45,000 votes. Well, to speak more about that, we are joined live now by the party's Secretary General, Yonga Mazikebe. Mr. Zikebe, thank you so much for joining us here today. You have seen the numbers on the leaderboard of the UDM. What is your reaction?
I think we are at a comfortable space with what is left that needs to be, counted or captured. We believe that we are going to surpass our 2019, results. So currently we're sitting at 48,000, which is closer to 50,000. We've already hit a seat according to our own calculations, and we're gunning for the next seat. And we believe that at the end of the final results, even though we'd aimed for 10 seats, but we're thinking the CSIR predictions of getting 3 or 4 seats will be the reality at this point in time. And I think that will be, something for us as a UDM, and that is growth. Because you'd remember that since 1999, what we have taken a downward trend. And if we do go as the predictions are happening right now, that means we would have grown. And as we are checking on the system, in all the VDs and where our strongholds are, we have actually shown a bit of growth, and we're waiting for more as they come. We have a situation in Nelson Mandela Bay right now, whereby in some of the VDs, the results were, mismatched or something of the sort. There was that predicament. They are going to go on a recount, and we're hoping that those results, when they're recounted and now they're captured, to come here in this leaderboard, then also they're going to put in some work on the UTM's numbers.
In 2019, you got just 2 seats in the National Assembly, and you seemingly are confident that you go above that this time around. However, like you said, since 1999, when you ran your first election, it's been a downward trend. You went to 4 seats at some point, 2 seats. Why are you so confident? What gives you so much confidence that your electoral support will increase this time around?
I think it's how we've done things, a deliberate effort that we have put in. Unlike other political parties who started just in a few months before elections, we started actually early. And what we did, we took a conscious decision to train our volunteers on the ground. And we traveled across the country to do what we called the presidential workshops, which I was leading at the time. And that gave us that confidence, because we went into communities, into all 9 provinces, rather than just going in a rush situation. Also, it is the work that the president has put in fighting for ex-miners, pensioners, ex-teachers, and so on. And that work that has been consistent, not just for the campaign itself, the campaign trail itself, but also as a member of parliament, fighting for the rights of our people and what belongs to them. That gives us confidence that it is a time that our people are going to give us more power and more voice within the National Assembly to be able to continue the work that we've been doing for the past 5 years and other years before that. But also, we have taken a decision to change, the leadership structures of the UDM, include more young faces, such as myself since June last year as the Secretary General of the party. So it is that, because we needed young faces which are going to be able to, be able to attract young people and hear and listen to the voices of young people.
Part of the criticism that the UDM has received over the years is that sometimes it does play along tribal lines. We've seen that your stronghold is in the Eastern Cape, which is a largely Xhosa province. Would you say this time around this was the case when you were on your campaign trail?
We have received that criticism. It's neither here nor there. And for us, it does not move us because we know that we are a political party for all South Africans. And we say that in our opening preamble, in every documentation of the UDM, everywhere we go, we've went throughout the country. As you can see, the representation and the votes that are trickling in, they're just not trickling in, even though they're small, from other provinces, but it's not because there are people or Xhosa people who live in those provinces. Like for instance, Limpopo, for example, we have different tribes and different races within the party in the UDM. So it's just that every party has a stronghold. Right, so our stronghold is the Eastern Cape, unfortunately, and we cannot run away from that. And we needed to build that up so that we are able to, have a formidable force. Like, for instance, the IFP. The IFP went into KZN in order for them to get the results they had in 2019. So we had to use that model and other models in order for us to be able to grow for the sake of all South Africans. Because when we're in Parliament, we're not speaking for Xhosa-speaking people, or Eastern Capians. We're speaking for every South African from every province. We have seen that we had a meeting with ex-miners in Limpopo, in Northwest, who aren't Xhosa-speaking, but we are helping everybody else from all political lines, whether they belong to ANC, to wherever. If they're unsatisfied with the services that they receive, the UDM is there for them. So we're a very, a holistic political party, even though we are said to be tribal, but that does not move us because we are actually doing the work for all South Africans, and South Africans do see that.
We know that over the years, the ANC, a large number of their voters do also come from Soweto here in Johannesburg. And we've seen a number of UDM billboards in that community. Is it a deliberate thing that you're trying to do to get those votes for the UDM from Soweto?
It is important when you look at the strength of the party, especially in the support of the voters, not just membership-wise. But when you look at places such as Soweto, that's where we get most of our votes, especially in the Gauteng, also in the Joburg region. We have a seat right now in Johannesburg region. It comes from larger from that populace. So you need to put more resources where you are stronger in order to build, your base and grow it even bigger. It's the same thing that we've done with the Eastern Cape because we have a stronger base. So what we did, we took 60% of our resources and invested there. Then we took in other provinces, and then we distributed in that order. Where you are strong, you invest more so that you grow. Once you grow, then you are able to open up and throw all around where you are not stronger.
Are you satisfied with the UDM's campaign? I mean, I attended one of your door-to-doors in Soweto a few months ago, a month or two ago. Looking at the numbers that are slowly starting to trickle in here, would you say you led a successful campaign?
I think we did. With the strengthened resources, the smaller resources we had, I think we did because I think we ran this campaign for just, below 5 million when other parties went on 169 million, on 30 million and so on. We ran a very successful campaign compared to the other years that we have been. In fact, when you saw that was a visibility campaign rather than a door-to-door campaign. But the reception that we got, you witnessed it. There are people, and it shows now on the leaderboard. And as we're going, we're expecting more of those results to trickle in to give us, the expected results that we had envisaged throughout our campaign. It was a tough one, I don't want to lie. Because when we have limited resources and we are playing amongst players who because of resources they are 10 steps ahead of you, now you need to be very creative on how you campaign and all of that. But our people came together, our volunteers came together, and we want to thank them for us to being here, because without them we would not be here.
Well, thank you so much. That is the Secretary General of the UDM, Mr. Yongaba Zikebe, effectively telling us that they are aiming to get about 3 or 4 seats in the National Assembly. As you would know that in 2019, they only managed to score 2 seats. And it's been a downward trend for the political party since 1999 up to now. They are hoping that they will increase their electoral support. Well, I'm going to bring it back to you in studio.
Well, so, okay, Sanusha Naidu, sorry, we were just, and I don't mean to be disrespectful with that little snigger there, but I just had to applaud how confident he was about the UDM and what they've achieved. But actually, I mean, we're looking at the figures, They've got 48,906 votes.
Yeah.
What's he confident about?
I think, they have to show a brave face.
Yeah.
This party has come out of the ANC, led by a very charismatic, very firebrand leader, Bantu Anumisa, who kind of opened up the door to the whole question of internal corruption, nepotism, patronage networks in the ANC, got expelled, so to speak, created the UDM. And their stronghold is also beginning to bottom out, in a sense. They're no longer the party in the Eastern Cape. Even the ANC is kind of bottoming out in the Eastern Cape as well. When you look at the numbers, when you start to disaggregate it. But I think this party kind of is holding on to that last bastion of hope. I mean, bless that guy's soul. He's confident.
Your heart
he's-
actually broke.
and you feel for, and you're gonna
He's like, no, it's not bad. It's kind of, you
yeah,
want to go.
and you're going to probably see this a lot now with parties that are realizing that the sun is setting on them.
Yeah.
And this election will really be their kind of sunset election in many ways.
A party that hasn't fared well at this stage is Action SA. We're going to be hearing
Yeah.
from them a little bit later on, with 2:30, I believe. Will they be now looking for the metros? Those
Yeah.
numbers
Yeah.
will make a difference?
Well, I think they're banking on the metros. I mean, this is a high-stakes election. It's a high-rollers game now.
Yep.
And what's happening now is that they're banking on perhaps that urban vote will actually be much more fragmented and swing away from the ANC more, and perhaps even swing more away from the MK in KZN, because the metros need to come in. But it will be an interesting tale, because I think at about just under 64% of the vote that has been counted in terms of voting stations, we're looking at just over 9 million people that have whose votes have been counted as valid votes.
That's right.
And looking at the election turnout, it's hovering at that under 59%. It's hovering at that 58.68, 58.5. So if that's the turnout we're going to see for this election, my rough maths tells me that if we say we even see 60% of voter turnout, we'll probably get around about just over 16 million people that have voted. So you're looking there at around about 7 million votes to come in, if that's what we are estimating and extrapolating from what we are seeing with the numbers. And so if you're banking on the metros, I think, again, it may be that in this election, and I want to circle back to the UDM, is we need to understand how many votes you need in terms of getting one seat in the National Assembly.
They might not, depending on the
Exactly.
final figure, get a seat at all.
And the calculation now is that the ANC will definitely drop below 200. I mean,
Yep.
that we can see that happening.
Yes.
Because they got 230 seats. That's a game changer in Parliament. MK, what they currently have, depending what the formula is, they could get around about 20 seats in Parliament. This is becoming interesting because the lower the voter turnout, we always have this theoretical assumption that a higher voter turnout favors the ANC, a lower voter turnout will favor the opposition. And then the inverse of that, as political scientists, we always try to debate this. We say that a lower voter turnout in this election, we've been told, will favor the ANC, and a higher voter turnout will favor the opposition. But what I think is important here is that if a lower voter turnout comes out at 60%, at 16, just over 16 million people, the smaller political parties are going to feel the pain in this election because they may not make the threshold. So I love the confidence, I love the enthusiasm,
Absolutely.
I love the kind of positiveness that the UDM representative had, but are they going to get 3 to 4 seats?
It's that thing, if you're going to smoke, smoke, right? I mean, talking about that, it's no tobacco day today. And I should imagine that all those politicians who smoke are not going to be adhering to that. Let's talk about where to from here. We believe that the president is going to be coming to the center, and obviously we're going to try and get to speak to him. I don't think he'll be able to say no to Tsidi, that's for sure. Where does this leave him? How tenuous is his grip on power? And remember, when the final votes come in, we were talking about it a little bit earlier, he isn't president for a bit.
Yeah.
What happens then?
So remember, once this election is finalized and they've gone through the auditing process, and what you're seeing there is audited votes that have been counted, that have been verified, and have gone through the IEC process, and they are now seen as votes that are basically audited and can be placed on that screen to display. Once you've done all of that, and barring whatever kind of process of disputes that they have to deal with, if they're able to manage it internally, if there's no kind of shocks around whether we want to go to the Equality Court or the Electoral Court, I mean, it depends, right? Once all of that is said and done, and they call this election, Parliament has to be constituted.
Yes.
At that point, in my interpretation, I could be incorrect, is he's no longer the President of the Republic. He remains the President of the ANC, but he's not the President of the Republic because that falls away. Parliament, the two houses, will sit in a joint sitting and they will make a nomination for who's going to be the candidate to become the President of the Republic. If there are two candidates, they go into secret vote. If it's undecided and they can't, and the vote is hung, I suspect, and this is really clarity on, and it'll be interesting to see, I think then the Parliament gets, you go into a hung Parliament over this election, and you have to then decide whether you go into 90 days calling a new election. So at that point, where, for example,
Gosh,
international...
exciting, right down to the wire.
So it doesn't end here, Jane.
No,
it
certainly
doesn't end here. In fact, I think our real work starts
Yep,
after
it
this
just
election
begins.
is declared. But so it doesn't make sense when international media start saying that the ANC is now beginning to, think about where they are with President Ramaphosa. He is not the President of the Republic after this election is called. So if they are talking about any things around whether they want to, whether his job is at stake as President of the ANC, that's an internal matter. And what I can understand is that yes, they can call a special NEC or a elective conference.
Yep.
Remember, they did it over 2 years, over a 2-month period from the end of
Yes.
2022 and finished in 2023. But it takes a lot of wherewithal, and from what we had seen there, they require a lot of both resources. Can they do it?
Can
And
they do it?
are they willing to do it?
Yeah.
Because remember, if if they feel that he has to be held accountable for what has happened to the party, then there's a lot of them in the party that will also lose out when he's not there.
Absolutely. It was interesting. I was listening to Clement on the way in, his show, and what a lot of callers in were saying about, the ANC members who will be missing out if he is no longer in power, and what it means for their future going forward. But I want to talk about coalition, the prospects of that, the fact that Helen Zille says she's now prepared to speak to the ANC. I mean, that's good news for markets, for the general outlook of the country, isn't it? I mean, if we're going to have to go down that route, that's right up there at the top.
Yeah, and we just heard the bell, so we know that the board has updated with new results. I think the fact that Helen Zille had made that statement is not the it's not going to be a big calming effect for markets, because markets
Sorry,
are
very
still
quickly, the UDM has just got over 50,000.
great for them.
Yeah, so his confidence was warranted.
Yeah.
Carry on, sorry.
But I think it was warranted from Helen Zille to say that it's not going to be the most calming effect. Markets are still going to be worried. People in South Africa are going to be worried.
Yeah.
The coalition and the stability of the body politic of the state is important. But if the ANC also comes out and says something to that effect, or kind of intimates towards that, I think it'll be a little bit more, not complete certainty, but some relative sense of where we are. I think what's happening right now with metros out, I mean, we saw the KZN map, and you can see eThekwini still hasn't been counted. I think if you look at the Western Cape map, you're going to see that by the end of this today, they're confident, the IEC provincial head is confident that they can get their results finalized. But that's all of the metros are important. Gauteng is very sparse at the moment, and they
Yes.
have 3 big metros. So this is going to be key, and I think they're looking to that to see what the final architecture and those final kind of messaging is coming out in terms of this election. And once they get that sense, I think that it would be good that they all put their egos at the door and they start talking about the benefit and start respecting South Africans who are more mature in this election than political parties.
No, absolutely. And again, going back to Clement's show and listening to some of the callers, a few of them were very complimentary about how Helen spoke, and that there's the maturity there. And that is really what we need now going forward, don't we?
We do.
We got the mature ones in the parties who understand what's going on, that they have to reflect and have a different conversation about leadership.
Yeah, the problem here with the kind of election we saw before the vote happened on May 29th, and the kind of attitudes we saw by political parties, and it's a pity that you had Ben from the HSRC here, and he looked a lot about voter satisfaction.
Yes.
It would be nice if they have a question about how political parties behaved and what's the satisfaction around them.
Absolutely.
But one of
Did
the
you tell him
things
that?
I will. One of the things I found very interesting is that political parties have always been very, very fickle. It's always about me, myself, and I. And so in this election, they kind of missed the briefing here. And so what they need to do is now understand it's not about them. It's about the fact that without the voters, you wouldn't be on that board, you wouldn't get 50,000 votes, or you wouldn't get 3.8 million votes, or you wouldn't get over 2.1 million votes. So you've got to understand that this election, the electorate may have actually forced you to talk to the people that you may have said, I don't want to talk to.
I interviewed Gwede Mantashe when they were choosing the NEC. And I said to him afterwards, excuse me, you know, you talk about reforming, cleaning up, but look what you've got in there. And he said to me, listen, within the ANC, we'll never throw people under the bus. And that kind of hubris, that kind of arrogance has got to stop.
Yeah.
It's got to stop. It doesn't work anymore.
You can't have that attitude. I mean, you can't have that attitude that an injury to one is an injury to all, or that we are essentially just a family that protects all of our members, especially when those members have contravened your very value proposition, your principles.
Yeah.
I think we've moved beyond this idea that Mandela's party has actually unraveled itself and unhinged itself. It actually was unhinging for a while now,
Yes.
you know, and that's something we have to get out of our mindset that this is Mandela's party. It's no longer Mandela's party.
No.
It's a party that has evolved into its own kind of existential crisis. But it's all
the
their own
spin-offs
fault.
from the party.
Exactly, it's their own fault because the reading of the room should have been much more strategic
Yes.
than what we see. So circling back to Gwede's comment, I think you've got to also start realizing that you can't take that attitude within the party. If there are people in the party that have basically brought the party into disrepute, you've got to
They've
deal with
got
it. You've
to
got to
go.
evolve with what people at that voter satisfaction survey were saying, is that we still believe in this democracy. We don't like the way you govern, but we believe in this democracy. And we feel that you need to hear us now.
I was just looking at MK figures on the board. We know that they are over 1 million. They are the new reality here in South Africa, something that's got to be taken seriously. We've had free and fair elections, by and large. That was confirmed in the voters' survey. They've been peaceful, and we hope that continues. We don't know what an emboldened Jacob Zuma is going to do. That is still very much an unknown factor. Sanusha Naidu, very good to have you with us, and I know you're going to be staying with us throughout this, I was going to say ordeal, it's hardly ordeal, it's very exciting, isn't it? And it's not over yet, as Sanusha was saying, it's just beginning. Good to have you with us. Thanks for watching.